All right, Ken, thanks so much for coming to talk to me.
Thank you,
Good
Andy.
to see you.
You too.
I'm excited to talk to you. I guess first things first, can you just introduce yourself to whoever might be listening to this? Tell them who you are, what you do for Penn?
Sure. My name's Ken Burkert. I'm a senior outreach coordinator and a certified peer recovery specialist. And I just actually completed my 10th year.
At Penn?
Yeah.
Oh, congrats.
Yes, thank you.
I know your story, I know your background, but I'd like to hear the story again.
So I started as a correctional officer in 1990. I was only 20 years old. And,
God bless you.
Thank you. Got married in 1993, had my daughter Victoria in 1994, and then had twin sons in 1996. So 3 children by 26 years of age. Mm-hmm. Married 31 years, it'll be 32 years.
I'm overwhelmed just listening to that, Ken.
In August.
So you know.
And it was a lot to handle as a young man with the profession I took on as a correctional officer. Mm-hmm. Was trained from some old school guys. And I guess the first 6-7 years, the training that I received wasn't really adequate training. Long, short, a bunch of officers got caught up in a bunch of detainees who came to our facility, and there was allegations of abuse. I thank God did not work that day. It was Father's Day. My wife begged me not to go to work. I said I need to go to work. I was working probably 70 to 80 hours a week and taking care of 3 kids. I didn't go to work. Thank God I didn't, because a bunch of officers were arrested for abuse. I went to the court proceedings to watch what was going on with these officers who I knew. Many of them had family and children, and they ended up going to prison. So I came home after the trial and I told my wife, actually walked down to my basement and I was crying. She goes, Ken, what's wrong? I said, these guys were my friends and they're going to prison. So my whole mindset in my 7th year had changed on, wow, I need to do everything differently on how I was trained. Union County then invested on training all the officers, and I became entrenched on doing the right thing, with understanding everything from what the standard operating procedures were, with all new training. I got every training imaginable, Andy, from the FBI on method of instruction, which is a hard class to go through and get. Mm-hmm. I was already involved with martial arts and wrestling. Mm-hmm. So defensive tactics became easy, got all these certificates and more, and learned how to basically do the job the way I was supposed to, document accordingly, and do what I needed to do to get to the finish line, which was 25 years.
Dot all your I's, cross all your T's. Mm-hmm.
Which became almost like an obsessive compulsive way of doing things the right way.
Sure. And
I handled business the right way, but I never allowed these inmates to abuse me. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't who I was. And I actually had 2 brothers that worked with me who were my older brothers. So, long short, I then run for union office because I wanted to be involved with negotiating and being involved with helping out my family and other family members where I worked. And that went well. I got involved with helping out officers who were in trouble, doing grievances, learning more about how to protect officers when things were going on. From there, I'll move forward to 2008. I had a friend, his name was Rudy Zurich, who I was also his FTO, which means Field Training Officer. Trained him on the job. He was a military police officer, great guy. Long short, I was driving to some type of Christmas party, and I got a call from one of my friends saying, Ken, you need to come to the jail. There is an escape with prisoners. Went to the facility. I saw my friend Rudy. I asked him what happened. He looked at me, he's like, why do you ask me that? I said, because I need to know what happened. And he told me. I left my post and went to the store, came back, and when I was getting ready to feed these prisoners, both of them were gone. I said, okay. I said, you don't look well. Are you okay? He says, I'm not okay. Now, we had traumatic event language in our contract at this point, where if an officer was involved with any traumatic event in the workplace, they were able to leave. I had an assistant director who was there. They taped up the whole scene. 2 inmates escaped from our facility at the same time. I was able to take Rudy to the hospital because I could see that he wasn't doing well, because I was given permission, and it became national news. ABC, NBC, they were at his house. He called me on the phone. Ken, they're at my house. Rudy, I never heard him yell, scream, or cry in my life. What am I going to do? They're at my house. They're saying I helped with this escape because national news was basically depicting Rudy as someone involved because the inmates wrote, "Thanks for the tools needed to escape." So I got Rudy an attorney, and I was working in overtime. It could have been on January 1st or 2nd. I don't recollect the date. But I saw Rudy, and he had 2 coffees in his hand, and I said, "Rudy, are you okay?" And he just gave me like a look and says, "Yeah," and like nodded his head. I said, "I want you to call me tonight." We spoke that night, and I said, "Rudy, listen, I know what's going on with the news. I have an attorney for you. Let's weather the storm. I have a job lined up for you if things don't go well with work." He says, "I love you, brother." Now, prior to that phone call with Rudy, because it was later that night, I called an officer of mine who was a friend, and I trusted him, and I said to him, I think Rudy's going to kill himself. He says, "Ken, why are you even thinking that?" I said, "Because I looked in his eyes, and I can see the fear, and I know Rudy's a perfectionist." Well, hence, I go back the next day, I get a phone call telling me Rudy killed himself. And I remember going into my union office, I was crying. I had another friend of mine who came in, and I told him, and he was also a close friend of Rudy's. We ended up going to Rudy's house, and I spoke to his wife. He had just recently had a daughter. And that's when things for me went bad. For 18 years, raising 3 children, it was hard. I was very structured on everything I did in my life. Both of my sons, their first toy was a wrestling mat. I was the captain of the football team and the wrestling team. My daughter, I got her into soccer. She was more into the books. She's now a therapist. Both my sons went to private school, St. Peter's Prep, and were Division I wrestlers, scholarship wrestlers, because of the structure I brought to them and what kind of like how I was raised from my father. So everything for me was structure, doing the right thing. When my friends went to jail, it was like scared straight. I'm not going to jail. I'm doing things right. I'm not going to fail my family. With Rudy, it became like anxiety and depression. And I never felt that way before in my life. I went through things at work where I got upset. I definitely had anxiety. I fought through the anxiety by working out, working, avoidance, staying involved with my family. After that episode, it really broke me. I ended up going to see a therapist, but before seeing the therapist, I went to our state PBA president. His name was Tony Wieners. And I said, "Tony, we need to do more. This can never happen again." And he looked at me and he says, "You need to go see somebody and you need to get help, and I will help you and other people." I suffered with a generalized anxiety disorder. I had to take medication for 2 years. I saw a therapist for 2 years, and I had to peel the onion on the guilt, but also everything else that was going on with my life.
Of course.
That I never recognized because I was raised from a really strict father who basically would tell me, shake it off. And I did. Playing sports was physicality. It was exciting. It was okay when I broke an ankle. It was okay when I broke my clavicle 3 times. All that was nothing. The emotional pain of my friend killing himself it's like I hit the iceberg, and I went and I got help, and when I got that help, I did not care what anyone thought, because I wanted to be the person to talk to the masses. And we conducted trainings with the PBA, with Dr. Stefanelli and Dr. Bizzarro and Cherie Castellano, and we trained as many delegates as we can for that 7 years that I did volunteering.
You talked a little bit about your connection with like unions, and I know job security is something that's obviously very important for this population, right? What kinds of career-related fears do you find that they are coming into treatment with, or might be preventing them from coming into
Great
treatment?
question. So I've dealt with, just at Penn Med, 2,100 cases. 840 have been law enforcement, corrections, police, sheriffs. The main question I get on the phone is this confidential? And I'm like, yes, it is. And then I qualify. Let me just tell you who I am first. I started the peer team in 2008. I was appointed to be on the governor's task force, and I have suffered with my own mental health issues. I know what you're gonna ask me already, so go on and ask me. Well, what about my gun? What's gonna happen with my gun? Great question. You're protected under the American Disabilities Act. First of all, let me hear about what's going on with your issues. I listen. I actively listen to everything they say.
So there's a fear that they're going to lose their job, and then there's
Immediately.
like a concrete fear too about the firearm.
Yes. But when they're in that place of their wives see what's going on, their employers telling them, you better go see somebody, they have the active thoughts of their anxiety is so unmanageable. And I also ask the question, are you taking any medication? They're like, absolutely not, I'm not taking any medication. Andy, I can share with you that, because I've dealt with so many cases for 18 years, if more first responders, not just police officers, correction officers, sheriff officers, if more first responders who are dealing with having some bad thoughts or being in a depressive episode and they can't get out of their own way, I've seen it, because they've come to the hospital and I'm with them for that 10-day stay. From day one, when they're like, I'm not taking anything, to day 3, where they finally take something, their guard goes down, and they're like, I haven't felt this way in so long. I finally was able to get to sleep because they can't shut down. I suffered with sleep deprivation, so I understand what that does to somebody. It can make you want to cry. It can make you get angry to where you start arguing or doing risk-taking. If more people understand that it's okay not being okay and just taking that time out, I call it a mental health tune-up. And Andy, it absolutely unequivocally works when they surrender to the demons that they're suffering with.
A large part of your job is working with the leadership in the different agencies, right?
Yes.
Law enforcement, military, fire departments. How have you seen their mentality around mental health issues change over the years? And where do you think there's still room for improvement?
It changed, I believe it changed after COVID. There was so much depression from the officers having to spend, or the first responders, having to spend more time with their significant others, that there was a clash of the titans. Because there was so much time together with significant other and children that there was like a breaking period on, there was more calls then than ever on, I need help, or I need to get my wife help, or I need to get my child help. So I think that was the breaking point with COVID, on having to be together more with each other, because my avoidance was working. I was working 80 hours a week.
Right.
I was able to justify being able to avoid until I couldn't.
But during this time, you saw leadership's mentality change too?
Leadership's mentality
They recognized
changed
it?
because leadership was suffering as well.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership didn't know how
Right.
to deal with their subordinates.
It was universal.
It was universal.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting called from chiefs on, Ken, can you come in and do a training or a Zoom training? There was almost where it was an acceptance on, we need to change the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely had an impact on the change. Prior to that, it was me and our doctors being able to do the trainings and getting on the microphone, sending that message. People were following me to the bathroom or calling me on, Ken, I can't believe you were dealing with issues. You look like you had everything together. I said, well, I did, except when I didn't. And the freedom to be able to talk about that, it helped so many others with not feeling vulnerable. Having that piece of freedom, when I was able to peel the onion, to figure out why it took me that long to realize, the truth of the matter is I was raised to be so structured and not make mistakes that I kind of like knuckled it until I couldn't. And it took for my friend to kill himself. And then 18 months later, another friend take his life in front of our jail and shoot himself. And me go back to the scene, see him get put in the bag. I knew his family, go to his house to see his wife. I knew his children. Did I become immune at that point? Not immune. Every suicide still hurts and affects me. But I'm able to redirect all that from being at the hospital and know how to use my toolbox. And then become more motivated to get out there to speak to the masses about what I already know they're thinking, because I've been there.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you is one thing I've always liked about working with you and respected is your passion for doing this, right? And I guess I was just curious, where does the passion and the motivation come from?
The passion came from the vulnerability of never thinking I'd ever be depressed and anxious on, wow, the emotional toll it took on me. It humbled me to where that vulnerability became my passion of, I can't believe I felt that weak, that vulnerable. I had to dig out of a hole and not give up. And I had my wife who was there for me. I had my brothers. I had my therapist. I had my father that I could talk to. I trusted them with my life. And then once I was able to get out of it, then the passion was just like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to let everybody know. Because if I could let someone know where I was, and if I could get to them, and I get to them over the phone, Andy, when I meet them,
I believe you.
they cry.
Yeah.
They're like, I wish I would have met you so long ago. And why isn't there more people telling me what you do? I'm like, it doesn't matter. We're here now, or we're on the phone now. And it's paying it forward.
I'm going to give you a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you can say whatever you want to all the first responders out there. All right? What would it be?
Everyone in life is going to have issues with anxiety and depression, and they're going to suffer from some type of depressive episode through a death in the family, dealing with family issues, dealing with a significant other. You have to allow yourself permission to surrender to win. And if you're feeling vulnerable to where it's unmanageable, where it's affecting your sleep, it's affecting the way you think, you have these ruminations that can't shut down, you have to be able to ask for help. And if you do, your outcome will be better. I know that for a fact because I live it every day, and I've learned how to reset and continue to stay motivated, because at the end of when my legacy ends on who I am, I want people to remember me as someone who cared, who had empathy, but also suffered in silence until I didn't.
Beautiful. think that's good. I think that's good. All right. Hey, thanks so much for talking to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy.